So I've been thinking more about China and Taiwan, and I keep seeing these posts from alarmist YouTubers and TikTokers, and I keep seeing these polls where it's like, when will China invade? In next month, in 3 months, in a year? And I'm like, none of those. It's none of those. They're not going to invade anytime soon. And there's one easy way, probably the easiest way to determine the future of likelihood that there will be a war in a specific area, and that is in trade, specifically around the war zone itself, and specifically in rail and sea transport. Now, there's no rail lines into Taiwan, obviously, so we have to look at sea shipping. One thing that has not changed with these Chinese exercises is trade and shipping around Taiwan. Now, there are zones for the ships to stay out of, and obviously they stay out of them, and they're advised to stay out of them because they're training exercises. The U.S. issues these things when we launch missiles into the ocean. Just stay out of that zone, and you'll be fine, and that's what's happening. The last few days of these simulations or war games or whatever you want to call them haven't deterred any shipping companies at all. The Taiwanese port of Taichung continues to run at full capacity with on-time arrivals and departures. Some of these departures and arrivals are coming to and from the Chinese mainland. I mean, the ports are so busy that ships are actually waiting in Taiwan Strait right now to dock. That doesn't sound like something ships would do if there was an impending war. I mean, the same port, there's other ports in Taiwan that are having the same thing, where ships are just waiting to offload their cargo to receive Taiwanese goods or to dump off stuff for Taiwan. Some of this cargo came from China. Some of it's going to China. That hasn't changed. That doesn't sound like someone who's going to war to me. Now, the second way, and it's almost foolproof, is insurance. And I talked about insurance, such as companies like Lloyd's out of London, when I was talking about how Russia was going to lose the ability to insure its shipping across the world, and that's going to hurt them just as much as any sanctions. And if anyone knows the insurance industry, they seem to have crystal balls. And this is especially true for shipping insurance for ocean freight. For instance, Lloyd's, who is the Lloyd's of London, who is a major shipping insurer, recognized that it was completely false when Russia said on February 14th Russia was going to withdraw troops from Ukraine's border. February 14th, Russia said, our exercises are done, we're withdrawing troops, etc. The following day, the Joint War Committee, which is a London-based body that classifies the world's waters according to risk for insurers like Lloyd's Market Association and Lloyd's of London, raised Russian and Ukrainian waters to its highest risk category. This was the day after the Russians said they were leaving Ukraine, and a full 9 days before the invasion started. Now, Lloyd's Market has been insuring shipping for like 334 years. They did the same thing. They saw the risks and raised it to the high risk category. Higher risk means it's more expensive for insurance, and Lloyd's places a body of water in its highest risk category, such as it did with the Sea of Azov or the Black Sea on February 15th. The terms to move goods, like the insurance terms, have to be negotiated on an individual basis. There's not just a blanket coverage, a pre-existing arrangement. So this makes it difficult to obtain insurance. So either Lloyd's and the Joint War Committee are psychic, or money still rules the world. And the same goes for China. Now, because of this, the Joint War Committee and Lloyd's have not raised the waters around Taiwan to its highest risk category. In fact, they haven't even listed the waters around Taiwan as elevated. They're just normal, meaning they see normal shipping taking place going forward. And since shipping often can take 27 to 35 days in the region, there's some short ones between China and Taiwan, but longer range shipping, they don't foresee any kind of war breaking out, at least in that amount of time. And the Joint War Committee said there's nothing to worry about. Same thing with Lloyd's. The reason they're saying this is because it appears that China's exercise around Taiwan are just that, exercises. What do you know? I mean, albeit they're exercises with aggressive rhetoric and probably additional aggressive movements, but there has been no real signs of preparation or attempt to follow through on military attacks against Taiwan. I mean, China's intent seems to be they want to send a message, they want to saber rattle and show the United States that it means business in any future endeavors. But the fact of the matter is many of these organizations, the insurers, the shipping companies, those that analyze this, are saying that China is not going to take on a highly risky amphibious invasion or even attempt to seize Taiwan in any way. And this includes Taiwan's outlier island of Kinmen, which is actually governed by Taiwan and is only 10 kilometers off the coast of China. The English Channel, for reference, is 33 kilometers wide. If China was going to take Taiwan, Kinmen is the canary in the coal mine, so to speak, and China has done nothing to that island. Somewhat in a shift there, insurers, Western governments, analysts, sane TikTokers are assured by the fact that the exercises appear to be pre-planned, and Pelosi's visit was simply a convenient excuse to execute them. Now, China was informed of Pelosi's visit as far back as June, but exercises of this scale can't be planned with a few weeks' notice. You can't move these pieces in 3 weeks. Taiwan's top diplomat to the United States told PBS on August 5th that these exercises were premeditated and had been a long time in coming because insurers had to know what was going on. So the result of this premeditation is every missile fired by China has landed in the Chinese designated areas and not harmed a single commercial vessel. Now, what wasn't probably premeditated is some of those missiles were probably not designed to be fired over Taiwan. They probably weren't originally thought to be firing into Japan's exclusive economic zone, which are the 5 missiles that weren't in Chinese designated zones. But those were nowhere near commercial, and they frankly weren't even near any islands of Japan owns. Now, there's been more fighter aircraft breaching Taiwan's airspace, and actually that's the one thing that has been a little bit more on edge is the aircraft travel into Taiwan. But that's not because of the war. That's because fighter jets don't necessarily communicate with these commercial aircraft as they're doing exercises, and there's more of a potential for accidents. Now, the fact that the Joint War Committee, Lloyd's, the shipping industry, etc., aren't really scared of China's chest beating is good news for Taiwan. I mean, if you want to see a quick way to worry about the future of a war, just look to see if there is a drop in shipping traffic. That would probably predict the future more than any military analysis or anything like that. Insurers, for some reason, have this uncanny ability to determine the future of a war. And while Ukraine's own president, Zelensky, was saying a war wasn't going to happen, insurers in London were saying, yeah, it's going to happen, and we're raising the risk level in those areas. And the reason is, and I said it before, money rules the world. And China needs money to weather the incoming economic crisis it faces over the next decade. And they're not going to do anything right now to harm any potential trade or income they need. And that includes going to war with Taiwan. Period. And that's the end of the story. At all. Done.